Good morning and welcome, Freedomizers. This is Deatra with Freedom Reigns. And what we have for you today is very, very serious. It's something that we've been waiting for such a long time. And very shortly here, I'm going to hand the show over to Drake, who is another member of our Freedom Reigns team. I've also asked my funny and sometimes obnoxious co-host, Jim, to refrain from asking questions that he thinks the audience would like to ask. And Jim, I know it won't be easy for you to stifle yourself, but Drake really wants people from the audience, our listeners, to ask questions. You think you could stifle it for today?
No. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Well, Drake, your mic is open, and I welcome you, and I'm very happy that you were able to take time out of all that you have been working on to be with us today. And I'm going to go ahead and just turn the show over to you. Jim and I will be keeping an eye on the chat room, and I'll be taking callers at our call-in number of 347-324-3704. And please make sure you guys press number 1 so that your hand goes up. Otherwise, I don't know you have anything to say. All righty, Drake, go ahead, hon. I am so happy to have you with us.
Well, it's good to be here, and I appreciate the intro. Hope I can live up to it.
Oh, I know you can.
What I'm looking to do today is to alleviate the basic fear of the change that is in progress and coming. The people's powers, in terms of people like regular, everyday people, the people in our government who recognize this have tasked certain of us with responsibilities to complete paperwork, which has been completed. At present, the maneuver is in process to take care of some of the details that are critical to completing actions. These actions are going to make major changes in the manner in which business is conducted pretty much in a total realm, internationally, nationally, and locally. The premise of what we are doing takes us back from where we are now to our founding documents in terms of a base structure of government. What this does is this puts the power in the hands of the people, basically. The other part of this is that you do have to have some sort of, and certain individuals in administrative capacities. You have a rather large entity that has to have people keep it from going off the track, so to speak. The idea of that is that the transition is designed, both in a plan I've read that started some 20 years ago and is presently being implemented, as well as the wishes, desires, and any efforts that anybody involved can make, is to be, first of all, peaceful, in that there is not going to be the Gestapo boot of martial law, military coup, or any of the takeover fears that a lot of people are putting out. The other part of it is that the services, and I do mean most all of them that you can think of, are going to be protected. Now, those people who are the bad guys, who like taxing you and taking your monies just because they enjoy the game of doing so, will do just about anything to maintain their power. Their financial power has been extraordinarily limited and reduced. However, the basic problem of making sure that this is a smooth transition is an extreme tactical effort just on the surface of it. If you think of, as an example, your local governments, your local areas, and managing and making sure that somebody with a gun don't go crazy, or somebody with a different idea don't use a baseball bat, or we have riots in the streets, or any of that garbage or problem, then you get an idea if you take that and look at a state. Take that and multiply by 50. Look at a large city such as Charleston, such as D.C., such as Los Angeles, and think of maintaining some sort of peaceful transition. Now, the changes already have the momentum. The tactics are in such a position that it is very close to the time of implementing the actions. There will be a lot of questions towards exactly what is going on, and that's one of the reasons I want to address everyone today, is to allay the fears. First of all, this is not a military action, it is a civilian authorized action. Secondly, the military will try not to be directly involved, but will use federal marshals backing up local law enforcement to culminate the process. Now, that process consists of removal of those who have been regulating and illegally stealing and things of this nature for decades. Their mass arrest, removal, etc., is going to create a lot of anxiety. Oh my goodness, what do we do now that nobody's in charge? Well, the military does have personnel who are capable to go along with this. As they would protect something, we have people who have run power plants and utilities, communications, etc., in the civilian sector, who will be put in charge on a temporary basis in order to make sure that the phone works, toilet flushes, you can go to work and not have to worry about it. Now, the short term is temporary. The long term is going to be put into place as this develops. One of the things that I know is going to happen is that we're going to have voting capabilities 24/7. Reason being is that the original documentation stops at the 13th Amendment to include the organic 13th Amendment that stipulates that people who serve any foreign power or accept anything from a foreign power cannot serve in office. Anybody with a dual passport is going to have to make a decision. A member of the bar is going to have to decide whether or not membership in the bar qualifies them for anything other than the loss of citizenship and expulsion, according to the 13th Amendment. Further, the group that I have been associated with is a group of independent people, small groups, from varying states. Each of these states has gone to the point of completing paperwork that set this country free. As of 2007, that paperwork was accepted. This goes beyond all of the treaties, international agreements, executive orders, and anything of the like that might have any effect upon that action. Now, that was simply a notification action, nothing more. However, in that notification action, this allows or gives authority from the people to the military to take their actions. And to be quite blunt about it, there are not enough people who are willing to put themselves on the line in the proper place or have the means to do so, in order to fulfill this basic mission of replacement. The authority or ideology of replacing a government comes from the Constitution, that whenever a government becomes so repressive that the people can no longer put up with it, that their lives are impacted to an extent that their very survival comes into question, it comes that time, according to the Constitution, a duty by those people who honor that Constitution to replace that entity, that government. This is, I'll say again, a 20-year-old plan. The process of awakening people is part of the reason for this program. The other part of it is to alleviate the fear that you're not going to have a Social Security check, veterans benefits, you're not going to have your utilities, etc. This is not the case. The ideology of the plan and the basis of the plan is a smooth and nonviolent, in other words, all the militias and all the freedom groups and those individuals with guns do not need to exercise that authority. They do not need to exercise themselves in terms of a revolution. This is a peaceful, quiet revolution. Its process simply calls for everybody to, yes, be alert, be aware, educate yourself most of all, and beyond that, don't worry about things being interrupted or turned off, because that's not what the intent is, and there are efforts being made to make sure that does not happen. So, what you'll have is a transition. It's a regression or a return to the basis of the government as originally founded. Now, that means that we, the people, collectively, locally, through the states, and then collectively as a group of nation states, will have to make certain agreements. We will have to find legislation that does not, from one state, impinge on somebody else where it wouldn't be applicable, wouldn't apply to them, and don't fit, in a manner that where everyone can finally live within a secure life in total freedom. Now, this freedom is based legally on a thing called common law. Common law states very simply, if there is no injured party and there is no property damage, there is no crime. Accordingly, there will be a load of people who have been put in jail, who have been incarcerated in some form or another for victimless crimes. These people probably, from what I understand of it, will be set free. That does not mean that your murderers, rapists, and other child chasers are going to be turned loose. Those people are going to be kept. However, someone who went to jail because they parked their car on the curb or decided that going 150 miles an hour down a curvy road was a good idea and caused accidents, these people are not going to be adjudicated for specifically an action other than, as I said, the accidents. That person is going to be held responsible for that. If there is a crime involved in that calls for incarceration, such as manslaughter or something of that nature, that's different. That is a victim crime. That is property damage when you crinkle somebody else's fender, or you hurt their cow, or you decide that fracking is a good idea and you screw up the water supply for a whole load of people. There are a lot of responsibilities going along with this freedom. As I said, legally or lawfully based in common law. Since 1933, we've been under international law. A lot of people are not aware of this. This was reaffirmed in another action in 1945. A rescinding of this legislation has been on the table since the 50s. Our legislators have been bullied, threatened, and promised evil things to be done to them if they didn't leave it alone. In this way, you have international banking, known as central banking, and others of financial interest who like to keep their little moneymaker running. In short, the enslavement of our people to something that is primarily evil. And by evil, I mean anything that takes away your freedom of will to make an honest choice, according to God, and a bunch of legal papers can be thrown in there as well. I'll use God as the supreme authority because He is in my life. If somebody doesn't like freedom of will, I suggest they complain to management. The freedom of will is not to be enslaved, but to be free people. According to certain records, you've had great migrations because people were running from war zones where the oppressor is decided that it's better to shoot at somebody than to talk to them. All of these things that are supposed to be involved in this are coming to an end. Now, back to us. I can look out and see pastures in my front yard. We've got deer. They're wild. They're protected up here because everybody's posted no hunting, and they won't allow hunting. The deer are basically our friends, and they're pretty cool to watch come through your yard eating some grass. It is neat for a man to be able to go outside and take a big lungful of free air, knowing he's a free man. These are mentioned in the Bill of Rights, these things I'm discussing, if somebody wants to look that up. They're mentioned in the Constitution. They are guaranteed in the Bible, and in the Bible you'll find a lot of wisdom about how a person is to conduct themselves. To make a long story short, apply the golden rule to everything you do. How would you like somebody to treat you that way? Or how can you treat someone else in a better way than you have before? I live in the mountains in West Virginia, and it's neat. People say, hey, you wave to each other. You might have words with somebody you never met before, and you don't even have to bother with exchanging names unless somebody's really interested. It's just a good to see you. It's good to see that you're doing well. The neighbors, when something is going on and somebody needs help, just happen to show up at the right time. It's similar to the old barn raising that used to go on back when. The premise of all this is very simple. Treating people right, morally, there's your golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. If you want to go even further, apply a lawful attitude of looking at what common law says. If you didn't hurt anybody or anything, you didn't do anything wrong necessarily. Now, that don't mean that you can go and get loud and rowdy and have a big party and not bother the neighbors. If you're bothering the neighbors, they probably will call the sheriff or somebody and say, hey, can you have him tool it down just a little bit? I'm trying to sleep. There's a lot that goes into this. The basis of this is simple. There are going to be major changes. I know change causes concern and worry. What I'm here to do today is to alleviate some of that as I can. Now, financially, this is the other big thing that everybody is concerned about. Financially, there is being worked on by the unaligned nations a new financial basis for currency. And this change of currency is probably going to take place pretty soon. They're working out, finalizing details, things of that nature. How do you make sure this works everywhere and that sort of thing? One of the interesting aspects to this is that the currencies, better known as fiat currencies, monopoly money or whatever you want to call it, that you got in your pocket and everybody uses every day, is basically not really worth the paper that it's printed on. The paper is more valuable, to be honest with you, no matter what the denomination is. The reason being is that it is a debt instrument. The new currency, the new international currency that is going to be put into place over a period of time within all countries is going to be based on equity, or real intrinsic value and things of real valuation. That means that you're going to end up with a monetary system worth 100 times, 1,000 times, some ridiculous number like that in comparison to what you have now. A lot of this taxation, as it quits, as you'll find is not necessary, you're looking at a very, very minimal, if any, taxation at all. The reason I state that is that there are what are called collateral accounts and world funds that hold tremendous wealth. By tremendous wealth, they will be able to pay or take care of all of the indebtedness of the planet and have 100 times that left over to take care of the roads, to make sure that people don't go hungry, and all those good, neat things that everybody has thought about, but I don't have the money to do that. I don't have the time to get involved with this. I am not sure I've got time to listen to this radio show. Well, that's why we record these things, so that you guys can come back and listen to it and get the gist of it. If you're not taking notes by now, I'd be surprised. It would not have been a good. It would have been a very good idea to have gotten a piece of paper out and jotted some of these ideas down. The premise of it is simple. You do not need to be afraid of the military. They may even come by and ask you for your assistance. Ask if you're a part of a group or whatever. And could you please tell them that we could use some help doing such and such. The such and such will be taking care of some poor person who can't walk well, who's by themselves, has very little food, if any at all, and overdue utility bills. These are the things that you got to look at. Instead of somebody coming to you with a gun, trying to bust in your door, they're going to be going, knock, knock, please, can I talk to you a minute? Yeah, what do you want? I need some help over here, and we're limited in what we can do. Can you get some of the round up a few neighbors and maybe go take care of this problem? We'll try to make sure that you get some food back or whatever it takes to do this. Very different from everybody's concept of martial law. All these dudes in Darth Vader outfits showing up with machine guns and taking your guns and your food supplies and putting you in a FEMA camp. Very different aspect, very different take. What you got to think about is what happens when these people that built those FEMA camps for us get to go on a camping trip in there for themselves. How are they going to like being in there? You're looking at mass arrests. You're looking at a combination of removal from office of all of those people who have been putting these evil things into play, telling you that they are going to take your property because you got a funny weed growing, or they don't like the way you stack your cans that are getting ready to go out for the trash, or that you got tools out, like a ladder leaned up against the house or something. Any excuse will do. Well, those days are not only numbered, but the power of the people that are doing these things has been curtailed tremendously. Now, this has not just been here. This is a worldwide effort. One of the things that is important to understand is that America had been, and I say had been, the shining light bastion of freedom, the place to be if you wanted to be your own man. That changed. And these evil people, or bad guys, or whatever you want to call them, are the ones that did this purposely. The Great Depression was done purposely. The housing market crash was done purposely. It was intentional. They did this so that they could play games with the markets, so that they could make money by betting against housing stocks, as an example. We have, because of the opportunities given to us by people who are willing to stand up, get up off the couch, quit drinking a beer for a minute, get up off the couch and go take care of business. Call Uncle John or Aunt Matilda and your nephews and say, maybe we might want to be free, and these people are talking for real. Well, this has been done. As I said, the paperwork has been completed and accepted. We are at the turning point, and I don't want people to fly off the handle and engage the military because they are a militia or a small group with guns or an individual with some kind of grudge. Stand down. Be ready. Go ahead. Make sure the gun's loaded. Have it by the window or the front door or close to you. That's fine. Carry one in your pocket. It don't matter. Just do not be real quick to draw that thing out and use it. Talk to the people first. It's simple. If they're coming to relieve you of your constitutionally guaranteed freedoms, that ain't the right people. And I don't think you're going to see those people, to be quite honest. There are way too many in the military who disagree with the idea of martial law, doing things to civilians. It states in the field manual, you're not to engage civilians, period. That's not what you're supposed to be doing. So, martial law, well, they tried to declare it twice already and it didn't fly. The people in command of our military have refused to take certain actions that were ordered by certain people in command of them, simply because it was unconstitutional. Now, there are other things that go into this, a whole bunch of them. And everybody has a certain aspect that they look at because it's theirs. It's my water bill, it's my toilet, my phone. I want to be sure this works. Is my check going to be there? And all those questions. I'll answer yes, everything is going to be basically okay. That does not mean that you might not run short of toilet paper. There are certain things in life that seem to be an absolute necessity, and I put toilet paper right up there toward the top. The other ways of accomplishing the same goal that toilet paper does not appeal to me. So I have stocked up on toilet paper as an example. I recommend that everyone out there who's listening do the same. It's not a bad idea. When you see a thing that says 4 for $1 and you can afford it, get a couple of extra cans of stuff. Now, this does not mean this is just for you. You are apt to have people who don't have a radio or don't have phones. There's people up here in the woods that don't have those things, that don't have time to listen. They're out there 14, 18 hours a day working their land to make it to where they can eat and pay the bills. You got people that work almost 24/7 because they got a large family, and they didn't have time, and the wife was too busy chasing the other kids to pay any attention to this. So I can understand that a lot of people may not have heard about this, but those people who are listening need to go and talk to people and let them know that there is some fun and games coming. Now, as I said, these are recorded, so there is the capability of listening to this again. And I highly recommend that those people who didn't hear it the first time get that opportunity. That's basically everything I wanted to say in general. And what I'd like to do is maybe open it up for questions if people have got some, either in the chat room or calling in.
Oh, that sounds awesome, Drake. I am actually having a little bit of technical difficulties, and Drake, we have our good friend and my colleague, Joanne Moretti, who is in the boards with us to help out. For some reason, my internet has decided to be very fickle, and it had actually gone down for about 10 minutes. But Joanna's running the boards for us. And again, you know, like we said, please, anybody with questions or comments, call in at 347-324-3704. You know, Drake has just been wonderful. He has been right there on the front lines to make all of this happen, you know, to help us regain our freedoms. And, I mean, it's just, Drake, you're a wealth of information, and you are such a true person to everything that, you know, I believe that we should all be. And I know that, you know, you have a lot more help out there than what you think you have. I know that for sure. You know, Joanne had even said that in the chat room. And so anyway, yeah, I would like to go ahead and invite people to call in. We'll give people a chance to do that, and we'll go ahead and go to a commercial break here, just real short. I know that we have a lot of people that are listening. Any questions that anybody has, please bring them forward. You know, Drake's the person to answer them for you. And Joanna's in the chat room and said to tell you hello, Drake.
I'll say hello back.
I'd like to strengthen something Drake mentioned a couple minutes ago. He mentioned that it's not just you. And part of that is, and I'm sure that there are many, many listeners out there who this will fit with, your kids, whether they're adults and they have kids of their own, are not likely, or, you know, very often not likely, to be as enlightened as you are. And in fact, if they're like my kids, they're totally clueless. And therefore, when I say to them, you know, when you're going to the grocery store and you can pick up 4 for $1 instead of just 1, you might want to pick up all 4, stock up on some things that are not perishable, because some hard times are coming. And it's, yeah, Mom, you know, that's just conspiracy theory. Now, when things come down and those hard times hit, it might just be your own kids, their families, your friends and neighbors that didn't listen to you, that you might need to help. You might just need to help feed them and educate them. So if you can afford it and you see 4 for $1, whether it's toilet paper or barbecued beans, whatever it is, stock up and keep your family, your friends, and your neighbors at heart.
Welcome back, Freedomizers. This is Deatra with Freedom Reigns. And oh my goodness gracious, there, we lost you for a minute there, Drake.
That happens.
Yeah, well, you are back. Okay, you have some questions coming up in the board. The first one I'm going to bring up, and I have to please state that anybody with a question, please limit your question and give Drake a chance to answer, and please let's keep things on target. So the first person I'm going to bring up is Mark, and he will be here as soon as I can get his mic open. Mark, your mic is open.
Hello, you mean me?
Yes, you.
Okay, well, briefly, one thing I was wondering about, obviously these criminal elements have stolen a lot of resources, and the one thing I want to be clear to certain people like the Occupy movement, you're not going to get anything free. You know, you may be given resources, but this idea of free education, free health care, it's a myth. It doesn't exist. It's a service. Somebody has to pay for it. And so the thing is, I was just wondering, there is going to be some kind of means of reinstating to the people the resources they need, including off-the-grid energy and off-the-grid telecommunications and like that. but I get the main impression the problem people are going to be facing is we're going to be looking at a major paradigm shift across the board, and I know it was traumatic for me. For people that have been resistant to how we've been deceived, that's going to be a major, dare I say, traumatic experience for them to come to their senses and realize how horribly we've all been lied to, right?
Exactly. The basis for this is that those who are responsible for what they've done in terms of the thievery, basically, get to heave up everything that they have access to in order to repair the damage and repay what they have stolen. This includes any and all great fortunes and people involved in it. Now, they may be able to keep, a servant's quarters or something on their property. I don't know what will be allowed. The primary part of this is that it is up to the people to decide their punishment. And the reason for that is that the reversion, the going back to original documentation, puts exactly those powers within the people's grasp. In other words, you would decide if a central banker happens to be thieving billions of dollars, but you got it back, what should his punishment be? I mean, is that stamping license plates, or do you need to re-educate the dink? Do you need to put him through a brainwashing program so that you come out with some decent person, or, what might that entail? Now, I personally wouldn't hold a clerk somewhere as responsible as the person that was actually implementing these things. So there's going to be a differential, but yes, there will be reparations.
But not reparations in the sense of the way that some people say, my great-great-granddaddy was a slave and you owned him and therefore you owe me, but reparations in the sense of genuine current injury, not generations ago type injuries, because I've heard that. When you say reparations, you mean in an honorable and honest sense, not some mistaken the way. So you're not, obviously, we want to be reserved. It's like when we're talking about re-education, we don't mean indoctrination. I've heard it called marching through Auschwitz, where we see the sins of our nation and realize most people had no idea what was really going on. So, it's like, the shame is that we allowed this to happen, not that we were personally directly culpable, other than the few people that were telling us these things are a problem. They are massively a shame to this nation. And like I say, it's a matter of we're going to have to be humbled here for a season, right?
In a way, yes. The idea of using the word reparation can take all kinds of different meanings. When I say reparation, I mean that the present damage will be repaired and the assets that have been stolen, whatever they may be, are to be returned to the general coffers of the people.
Yeah.
To go along with this, part of the plan is to offer educational classes on cable TV, satellite TV, and broadcast TV that will give a combination of both a little bit history lesson, present situation, and what the individual can do to be a productive person, so that first of all, they know, and secondly, in the process of becoming productive, can help, and thirdly, and this is most important, so we don't ever go back there again.
Amen to that.
Thank you, Mark. I hope that answered your question. But I need to move on to some other callers. Okay. Drake, you have another caller. As soon as I can get the board to let her in. Cindy, your mic is open.
Hi, Deatra. Hi, Drake. I know you brought up the point of toilet paper, and that's something that most of us would freak out over if we didn't have access to it. But I just did want to let everyone know that if they'll go to Google and type in toilet paper alternatives, there are some options. So that is one area that we don't have to panic over.
When I use leaves, I always get a rash, and that's why I try to use toilet paper.
Well, I can't think of a better use for old yellow pages.
Exactly. The gist of this is what was stated. If there, as Terry mentioned, if there's a 4-for-1 deal, go ahead and take the 4-for-1, because you're going to pay about the same price for the 1 as you do for the 4.
Oh, exactly.
You stick it in the basement, okay? When people come up in there and they have not prepared because they didn't believe this, because they thought it was all some sort of BS conspiracy theory nut job kind of thing, and all of a sudden it happens, you're going to have somewhere between 30 days and they're saying up to 6 months. I'm going to say 90 days. I don't think it'll take that long for what's called resupply. Now, there's 2 things that are critical. One is communications, and the other is transportation. If you can keep those 2 functioning, then 90% of the other problems can be taken care of or addressed. Now, that means that you're going to have the sewer plant's going to run so you can flush the toilet. You're going to have water, okay? The water plant will be run. If the people in charge of these entities decide that they're going to ruin it for everybody, not only will they be taken out, but they'll also be replaced. If repairs need to be made, you might not have any water for a day. If somebody blows up a water main or something, or turns the wrong spigot and screws up the machinery. So these things have to be taken into account. And we have people both in the military, in civilian life, who have run these plants, who have done these things. They are supposed to be contacted, if need be, as need, to take these positions over. And in that way, we will assure that things will pretty much go along. It might be a little bumpy, but it does not mean that you're going to totally do without everything, period, and go back to the Stone Age and be living in a cave somewhere. That is not what is supposed to be happening. What is supposed to be happening is the addressment of those who have created the problem and the problem itself.
Mm-hmm. And I understand all of that. I really do. I also know there are people who are in positions that they can't afford even sometimes the 4-for-1. So that was my point, is just that if we can take stress away from people, if they know they can survive without toilet paper or something else we're accustomed to using a certain way, then it relieves stress for people, and that's something that's really important to do.
I think also that, we haven't made this point, but it is really, really important that more important than the everyday things which we take for granted, like diapers and toilet paper, part of being prepared, some people their very lives, are dependent upon medications that may become hard to get, such as insulin, for instance. So if there's a way for you to stock up a little more than you normally would, if your life depends on medications, do so. That's not something you want to suddenly find there is a shortage of.
Thank you, Terry.
And also, there was a question in the chat which I
Thank you, Terry.
answered.
I was just going to ask that, but
I'm going to read the question and then my answer, and then let Drake add to it.
Okay.
The question was, am I to understand that there's a legitimate move to restructure the U.S. government back to Constitution-backed military? Well, backed by military. And the answer, the quick answer to that is yes. This plan has been in place and in development for more than 20 years, but it's fluid and ever-changing in response to the nasty moves on a daily basis by the criminals who are now in control. So we don't have a timeline, nor can we share details other than be prepared for great and sudden changes. And I'll let Drake take that further if he chooses.
Interesting. The great changes are extreme, but the end result won't be. In other words, you're not going to see troops on every corner as in martial law or something of this nature. You may not even see any at all. Local law enforcement will be tasked with removing certain individuals that are on a list. And believe me, there is a list, and it's extensive. Now, you're going to have somebody that's going to be able to be mayor or whatever. You're going to have to allow a process to come to its full conclusion. That process includes the change from the theft and thievery system we have now to one that is honest, above board, transparent, where you can see what's going on, and a factor where the people decide exactly what's what, who we give foreign aid to, if we do, where we might be able to take that foreign aid and feed people here in this country who are hungry for no good reason in the land of abundance and freedom. It goes on and on, but basically the constitutional authority for military action comes from the people. That paperwork has been completed by varying individual independent groups. We also generally agree to the basis of an agreement between us, and that is that this needed to be done as soon as possible. Now that it's complete, we're waiting on the tactical maneuver of the military and other enforcement entities to get themselves in place so that there is no damage or, I had a fire in the records room, so we don't even believe you exist. Well, even a computer glitch will declare people dead. So these things, all of these things, and they sound like minuscule details, multiplied by 10,000, 100,000, and you got a lot of people very busy making sure that things come out correctly, and that's basically what our waiting period is.
Also, as angry as people are likely to be when some of the criminals are exposed that you didn't know were stealing from you, as angry as everyone is going to be about that, and rightfully so, remember, this is America. We are American. We believe in due process. So don't let your anger override your common sense, and allow the law to deal with criminals in the way the law is supposed to.
Hear, hear. Now, that includes the fact that is not being mentioned, that a lot of these people go to court and walk right back out. That is no longer going to be the case. And I mean that, and that's directed to all of these people who are scurrying around trying to find a place in outer Slobovia, someplace to hide. Well, the problem is that this is a worldwide effort, and there is no place to hide, and you will be brought up on charges for the crimes you committed. All of your assets, no matter what they are, will be removed from you. You will be put on the street destitute at the very least. In all probability, you will be put into some sort of servitude. And my suggestion is that they might want to help us, and that's the people who would agree to this, that are the bad guys, unravel this mess. Now, I've been told by people in the know that just the IRS alone, this is outside of the central banking system or any of that, just the IRS alone, it'll take something along the lines of 4 years just to figure out what happened to who, which way it went, where it's filed,
who they owe what.
Who it is.
But will they be gone?
Hey, we have another caller on the line, guys. We have Grammy J out of Texas. Grammy J, your mic is open. And welcome.
Thank you. I've noted that just days before we reclaimed our freedom in writing on 2/7/12 and announced it to the world, that mass resignations began to take place all over the world. Can you, Drake, and or Terry expound on this a bit for us?
Absolutely. These people are most directly obviously involved in this, and that's the first layer of the onion to be peeled. The second layer of the onion to be peeled is being peeled in private and independent areas. The third layer of it is the core or crux of it, which I understand is being attended to as we speak in a rather roundabout way, but an effective one. And I can't give you any more detail than that, but this is basically, you've got over 300, my last count that I saw posted, of resignations of people that were chief financial officers, chief executive officers, managers of extraordinarily large financial institutions of all kinds who are heading for the woods. Now, my suspicion is they know that we're going to come after them, and they want to spend a little time with their families before they get to go to Mr. FEMA camp and camp out for a while.
Some are under house arrest, too. I got affirmation on that.
And some are also being accompanied by federal marshals so that they don't try to go anywhere.
Yep. And guys, you know, the IRS and all that's going to be gone. Gone,
yes.
Gone.
Yes.
How soon will the IRS be gone?
It can't disappear overnight, as Drake pointed out. That is just one of the rabbit holes that is monumental to unsort and figure out who's owed what's been taken that needs to be given back, who's holding money that shouldn't be, and so on and so forth. So the IRS, even though it may immediately cease and desist collecting money from you, it still must exist for a while until all of that is sorted out.
But that will unload the economy.
Hey, as long as we get to stop paying them right away, that's good.
Well, that's only part of it. The other part of it is that because you do not have that structure, you don't need that structure. In terms of the largesse amount of individuals populating our governments all the way down to the local level, anybody that is not needed will get to take a walk and learn to be productive. Now, this does not mean that we're just going to turn people out and dump them like the foreclosures have done to families. What this means is that there will be re-education offered into trades and or things that are productive, be that farming, be that manufacturing, or whatever. There is a lot of general reparations, general fixes, and overhauls that are going to require a lot of people. So we may end up keeping a lot of the federal people simply to get the mess taken apart. It's going to take a lot of people to do that. So
yeah, and we also have to bring back industry and productivity that has been sent offshore massively and turned us into a consumer nation rather than a producing nation. And all of that, as it comes back, and we are also given access to a great number of hidden technologies available to us, that is going to create massive numbers of jobs and new frontiers.
And if we don't have to pay federal taxes, property taxes, stuff like that anymore, that the bad guys were basically ripping us off for, will we simply pay a very small, flat tax to help pay for road repair, infrastructure maintenance, etc.?
Okay, first of all, we don't know what the final look of the federal government is going to be when it's all over. We do know how it is supposed to be, but I think we need to make a distinction here. The federal government never at any time had a right constitutionally to collect income taxes from the American people. It was never needed. None of that money, not a single dime of it, ever went in to pay for government infrastructure. It all went to pay interest to the Federal Reserve, a private banking institution, to pay interest when they loaned us our own money. Now, state income tax and federal income tax are completely different issues. Your state, under your various state constitutions, may or may not have a constitutional right to charge you income tax, state income tax. Some states do, some states don't. Now, that is lawful so long as it's part of your state constitution. And that money does go to your state's infrastructure in various ways. Even though that is corrupt nowadays, that'll be cleaned up. But there's a big difference between federal and state taxes. Property taxes, too, are part of your state and county structures, not federal. So there's going to be a whole lot of work in the various states, state by state, for the people to attend to.
So property taxes won't go away?
You don't know that. You live in Texas. How your state is run and how your legislation is run and the way your laws are enacted and enforced is entirely up to the people of Texas.
Yeah, and I'll bet they'll go down a lot even if they stay in place.
Most likely, but that would involve the population of Texas having a voice and making decisions like you're supposed to.
Right.
You're welcome.
Hey, Jim had a real interesting question. Jim, do you want to go ahead and answer your question? Because I know that I've seen it asked many times in various groups that I'm involved with. So go ahead and ask that one.
Short and sweet. The boogers that have cut off loan money to farmers, for instance, to plant this year. Will there be capital available for businessmen? And I'll yield at that.
There's going to be a combination of changes. One of those is capitalization of the productive individuals, whether that's producing jobs or products or selling things or whatever. The backbone of this country is somebody paying somebody $50 to fix a gutter, to whatever it takes to put a room addition on, this sort of thing. The small business creates between 30 and 50 times the jobs that large corporations do. The problems, and this is something everybody needs to be well aware of, is that high-speed and complete manufacturing has displaced a load of people doing the same thing as the machines now do. So if you have people who are not able or capable of getting into, say, an engineering trade that would be something in demand, but are more oriented to physical labor, then there will be certain parts of these advanced technologies that are going to be coming out that they will be able to do. And it does not take, as an example, a rocket scientist to be a government official. Anybody who is, first of all, so honest it's painful to be around them, and secondly, has common sense, is exactly who I would want. I don't care what the office is. Just that simple, and I'll leave it at that.
Right. Now, Joanne was mentioning, when we were talking earlier about being prepared and storing, one thing that she was mentioning, too, is fuel, storing up on fuel.
Good point.
Well, you can't store what are called liquid fossil fuels. Gasoline, diesel fuel does not store well, gasoline specifically. I don't think we're going to have that much problem with that, except that the delivery of it, this is where your transportation comes in, might be a little spotty in some places. Now, I know for a fact, because I lived in New Orleans, that they shut down extraordinarily large refineries. I also know that if done correctly, taking the time and trouble to make sure the pipes don't leak, you can extract oil from places where normally you wouldn't want an oil rig at all for any reason. And we have enough, this country, okay, has enough fossil fuel to sustain us for the period necessary to switch from fossil fuels entirely over to what's called hidden advanced technologies. I've been involved in that area.
How long will stored gas last safely?
Well, to give you an example, and this is, anybody can look this up, there's a guy called Nikola Tesla. He was involved in a whole bunch of advanced technologies. That's what he did. He invented things. He got upset one day when he went to the gas station, so he drove his car home. And his nephew and he took the engine out and the gas tank off and set them over to the side in the garage. He took an antenna and a black box with some dials on it and an electric motor and installed them in his personal car. They never did have a battery to be charged, and they never put fuel in it. And the evidence is online if you'd like to read about it. The nephew made a report that they drove that car for 2.5 years. Now, what I'm talking about is simply a different form of generation of electricity and the manner in which it's used. That's all it is. We use what is called, when we generate electricity, a forced propagation. Propagation means origin, or the manner in which you produce something. So we use a force. If you reverse that, the other part in electronics is called conductance. That's the positive part that sucks all the negative in. If you reverse the force and use the sucking motion, you reduce 90% of the inefficiency.
Right.
Right now, gasoline engines operate between 20 and 30% efficiency.
Max.
The new ones, the best they got, the Hondas at 100 miles to a gallon that are coming out, operate only 40%. I'm talking about instantly being able to go to the 90% range.
How long will my gas last that I have stored in cans?
Average on storage of gasoline is 6 months.
Okay.
And that's only if it is not subject to sunlight, which is warmth, and cold, which is snow.
Right.
Any kind of real extreme temperature variation causes the gasoline to turn into muck that will not burn in an engine correctly.
Well, there's stabilizers too, though, Drake, that can be added to it to help. Correct?
Yes, but you'll gain maybe a month or two, and that's it. The gasoline turns back to sludge.
It helps.
Gasoline evaporates. The evaporation takes with it the components that cause it to be explosive. So basically, you turn into something halfway between gasoline and diesel fuel. And there's not too many things other than what they call all-fuel cars, which they have in South America, that will run on that stuff. Now, several of us here have been trying for years to get that all-fuel system as part of the production here in the United States. Well, they're making too much money, and they got too much money, and they say no, and because they can buy and sell countries, they pretty much are listened to, and that's why you don't have that technology now.
Store some
Do you
fuel
believe that the mass arrest will take place before the election in November so that the people can hold their own free elections?
I'm going to be awful disappointed if they don't happen pretty soon. I am kind of iffy on that in terms of I wish they'd hurry up, but I also understand the tactics involved and the problems of going outside of a chain of command and getting into a sensitive area so that they do or are able to exert control over that and damage is not done. So I would say yes, and I would hope I would actually love to see it happen while we're on this call, just to be honest with you.
That would be great.
Oh, yesterday.
Flip that switch.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I'm ready for mass arrest.
Oh, no kidding. Welcome back, Freedomizers. This is Deatra with Freedom Reigns, and I've been sitting here watching the chat room, and hey, Joanne, you have given some great suggestions here. She's suggested things such as, say, solar battery charger for your car and converter box for the batteries, too. Of course, she mentioned you can get them for like $50 at Walmart or various hardware stores. Another good place I like to shop at is Harbor Freight. They have a lot of great prices there on these types of things. I know when we used to go out trolling, we used to use an electric marine battery and powered it with a solar panel while we were out on the lakes, and never, ever ran out of batteries. So that's a really, really great suggestion, Joanne. Thank you. She also suggests making sure you have seeds for your garden. And so, that's great suggestions. Thank you. Drake, you also have another question. Will there be a mainstream rollout that will keep people calm when all of this takes place?
Yes. What the idea is that people such as Freedomizer Radio, Coast to Coast AM, and others will be notified by certain people in our group of the coming change that is going to happen very soon, and this will be within a day or so of the actual event. In this way, everybody can be aware that it is coming, and they can look out their window, be that at work, the office, at home, whatever, and see for themselves that all the birds didn't leave and that sort of thing. So, it's definitely this plan, like I've stated before, is very concise, and it has general information where a lot of it is left up to, as Terry mentioned, the situation involved being fluid, because you don't know what the bad guys are liable to throw in your way, or what event might come up that doesn't fit with anything, and you have to be able to address that. This is where your common sense comes. This is where the common sense application comes in of the plan itself. Then to go along with it, yes, there will be a combination of press releases and notifications, as well as I think I stated this, that there will be an educational channel that will be giving people information as to what is going on, what some of the history involved in present actions are, what the people are empowered to do. How many people can come up with the different ideas to what should be done and how it should be done. As an example, the idea of being energy independent with using a 12-volt battery, I recommend that you go ahead and get one of those survivalist radios that has shortwave, AM, FM, a crank charger, a solar panel, and those nice little plug-ins where you can charge your cell phone.
What is he doing?
That sort of thing. I mean, you can plug it into the wall. I mean, it's just, some of the stuff they got out right now is just great. I've got one of those radios myself, and I listen to Alex Jones once in a while. I can pick him up. So,
what's the brand name? What's the brand name, Drake? You told me, I forgot. What's the brand on it?
I'm on the porch. Hold on a second. I'll go find out real quick.
There's one in particular where I've seen on the net, and they're for real. Shortwave, hand crank, solar power. They are a brilliant idea. I've never gotten my hands on one to see how well it performs, but that's a real good idea, period, in the statement, because there could be local power interruptions. We just don't know what's going to happen.
It's a KAITO, K-A-I-T-O, and it's got just about all the features you might want to have on one of them things.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, I mean, of course, I'm on top of a mountain, which helps my reception, but if you As an example, take a transformer from a little AM radio and use it to boost your signal. You'd be amazed what you get.
Right. Drake, you have another caller. I'm trying to bring him up. Howard, your mic is open.
Yeah, Drake, I thought we had this gigantic debt in China. Now, how did that get eradicated?
It's not actually a debt. You got to remember that you got to remember, first of all, that the history has been changed according to what fits the current agenda. And then to go along with that, the current agenda has been basically a promulgation or bowl of soup or liars club for since I'd say somewhere around the end of World War II is when it started, and it's been getting bigger, nastier, and worse since. The imbalance of trade, it doesn't exist. You have to remember the ideology behind debt instruments, and a consumer-oriented debt economy. All of that is going to go from debt or negative or zero back into the green again. The debts of China, in the debts of the United States, and the debts of Russia and all these other countries will be paid. That's part of this extraordinary amount of financing that is in place, ready to be used for the advantage and good of the people. Thus, we won't be obligated to federal income tax and things that have been going into pockets of people that shouldn't get it.
Thank you. Howard, that answer your question pretty much?
Yeah, I didn't have this knowledge. IMF started in Europe in 1944. They run all these cabals.
Right. Okay,
so
well,
thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much for calling in, Howard.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anybody else that has comments or questions? Wait a minute. Okay, question. So, Drake, are you telling us that we need to concentrate on bringing food, fuel, and fiber production back to the U.S.?
Absolutely. Now, one of the things that people aren't aware of is that the older machinery that we sold to foreign countries where factories are stripped out is still sitting down there not being used. That means that we can bring things back here, stick them in some of these empty buildings we've got, and put a load of people back to work making Fruit of the Loom or whatever it is we desire to make. Western Electric, as an example, the engineers Eastman Kodak, who now work for Fuji, all these people are going to be given the opportunity to come home and do something for our country. The opportunity will be comparable to what they've got now. Maybe more, maybe less, variations of that. So you're going to have a resurgence of that particular part of the economy. The second part, which also happens at the same time, as I understand it, is that a great amount of these funds will be used for two things in conjunction with each other. One is the resurgence of farming and reparation of the ecology. Now, being able to repair ecology means that you can mine things, such as wood, for instance, if you go about it correctly. The Amish know how to do this. I've seen them work in the forest before. In terms of pumping oil out of the ground, if you do it correctly, you don't cause any problems. This does not mean that you're going to be able to pump an extraordinary amount, but that you just simply take a little at a time out of several gigantic pools that we have, and it will more than offset any kind of, as we're experiencing now, fun and games in the price ranges. You're looking at fuel coming down from what it is now into the between 50 cents and $1.20 a gallon, maybe, for gas. Now, that does not mean everybody's supposed to go crazy and drive all over the place. But without income tax and with a reduction in costs, that means that your groceries go down. That means that your cost of things, produced goods, things of this nature, also can go down. When you alleviate the government from being able to implement regulation that causes everybody's underwear to tighten up, then you are in a position of applying common law to whatever's done. You don't screw things up, you don't have any problems. There's no penalty.
Time to learn personal responsibility once again.
Exactly, and we'll be bringing that one up, and I would love to have both of you, Drake and Terry, with us when we do the personal responsibility again.
Well, part of this is the personal responsibility, and one of those is that if somebody produces an item that they know to be defective, they've been notified, and whether they ignore documents or whatever, or I didn't see that memo or whatever their excuse might be, does not give them the right to commit manslaughter through a defective toaster that kills you when you try to toast some bread, or cars that don't have brakes, or whatever the deal might be. So this is a part of the common law premise in terms of personal responsibility and company responsibility, as Terry mentioned.
Right. Grammy, did you have any more questions, comments? I know you're very active with what has been happening as well, and you being retired military, I think you have a valuable spot in this.
Well, actually not retired military. I'm a Vietnam-era Marine veteran. I left the Marines to take care of my 2 children, excuse me, who were born with medical problems. But I will say that many movements have been trying for a long time to do what has just been done. So therefore, it is not uncommon for the average person to wonder if this is real, and time is going to show them that it is.
Yeah.
You're right there. Terry, Drake, do you guys have anything else that you want to go ahead and add in here? We're down to our last 30 minutes, and at this point, I don't have any new questions on the line waiting. So I'd like to just put in whatever you feel needs to be there.
I would like to point out something, go back to what Drake was just talking about a minute ago, and the basic premise of common law, which this country is supposed to be founded on in the first place. It won't be like it is now, where every time you make a choice or make a plan, you have to stop and think, am I breaking a law, some silly ordinance somewhere, or a regulation of some sort? The basic premise of common law is, first, do no harm. As long as what you are doing does not harm or infringe upon the natural rights of another person, then you have the right to do as you please.
Exactly. Well, you guys have given us a lot of very valuable and helpful information, and I can't thank you guys enough for everything you guys have been doing to help move this forward, and helping us and showing us the right way and the things that we need to do, and helping move forward the fall of the cabal and what. I mean, this is so awesome.
If I can jump in here just for a second here. America has been so weakened by all these policies that she can't even feed herself. That's pretty weak. So we import a third of our food. I know that this is going to roll out the very best of everybody's ability to make it peaceful, but for crying out loud, plant a garden. And farmers, we need you.
Yes, and I'd like to interject something here, too, if I may. The more people begin to understand, they will see that these horrible people have stolen so much money from everyone all over the world that they could actually feed, clothe, and house every person on this planet and they wouldn't even realize it. They wouldn't even miss the money. They have stolen so much from us, but yet they allow people to suffer and children to starve.
I agree. And the other message to the farmers out there, the great damage that has been done to our earth, our soil, our agriculture, by massive companies like Monsanto and by chemtrails, all of that is healable. It's reversible. And the answers have been there for quite a while. It's just been blocked from us, from accessing it. But it's there. We can heal both our bodies and our environment very quickly.
Yes.
Well, I personally have dealings with people that can manufacture the components necessary to do these things.
Absolutely.
Will Spencer's one of the people, and I've got about 3 or 4 others that do things that will correct the problems that we've created. Now, some of the things that we've got to deal with, the reason that we are going global with the financing is so that we can attend to things globally. Now, Africa, as an example, has been negated and ignored and put on the back burner. There is a load of things going on there that are directly attributable to the corporations that own it or have land leases or whatever. There are several things that can be done within a day's time that would alleviate about 90% of the hunger and problems in those countries that are going on now. One of those is elimination of some of these so-called righteous groups that like to go around and murder, pillage, and destroy and whatnot. When the people realize that they can have a decent life,
right,
then that decent life will bleed over into, well, I have a strong son, and he can shoot straight. Does he need to go with such and such and attend to the problem? And the answer is maybe and probably,
right.
And I'd say yes.
Hey,
so,
Drake?
Yes.
Drake, honey, we have another caller. I'm bringing her up now. We have Sarah. Sarah,
okay.
You are open, hon, and welcome.
Thanks. I just have one kind of concern or question, something that I'm thinking about, which has to do with, that what I'm hearing, and I haven't listened to the whole show, because, anyway, but most of it, I think. I hear being addressed, things like, I still hear productivity being addressed. First there's survival, but I hear you saying, it's not going to be like, cave in the woods kind of thing. There were certain parts of what you think are going to be in place that really sound a little too much like what happened in Russia, or China or Ireland, or any country where all of a sudden, the prices go way up and people do start to become more concerned about their survival. And that's when things like, or people like writers and poets and musicians and philosophers, people who think, philosophers, people who aren't necessarily making potatoes, what happened, or religious leaders, and when things started to get, that's what happened. It's like they were starving, and they said, "Hey, we're not. You know what? We have enough for everybody." But somebody before said, you're not going to have to worry about this law and that silly law and that little silly law. Oh, okay, but most starving artists have so little. A lot of them do. That those kind of, we don't really live in that same world anyway. Also, professors and academia, there's a large group, a population that I don't hear being addressed, meaning that somebody, it still sounds like somebody could say, hey, you know what, I don't think that you're practicing that sonata right now is as important as helping this guy put his toilet in.
Hear, hear.
When actually, I'm a music therapist and a composition analyst, which means that I know more than that man standing in the blue suit. I happen to know that actually that thing's going to get fixed more quickly if I do what I'm more suited to. And what I'm not hearing yet is anybody who knows enough about, especially about this punishment thing. What's going to happen there? We need to have some, and you're going to have a lot of top half grade. Take a look at the curriculum for psychology. It's not very sophisticated. And they're going to be all fighting with each other. I know what to do. We're talking about behavior modification. To tell you the truth, I have such a slow metabolism now. I give my food away, or there's going to be guys and men. You hear what I'm saying, don't you? I can stop now.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Sarah, I'm going to go ahead and let's let Drake address your concerns here. I want to thank you, though, for taking the time to call in and make your concerns known. We've got only about 23 minutes left. So, Drake, you want to address her concerns?
Can I say something first?
Yes, go ahead, Terry.
Go ahead.
America is going to have to be taught how to be free again. We largely do not even understand what that means, the responsibility that it brings, and the concept of charity is not a handout, it's a hand up. We all have to be re-educated. And I agree with what this woman has said. That is going to be a large group with a large problem, and that we're going to have to address that directly because they are off in another whole plane of thinking, and they're not going to just automatically step across that line from indoctrination into freedom.
That's true. The difference is this. Allowances will be made, according to what I understand, through what's called a simple test, and a lot of people will be given this test. And what it does is it shows talents, capabilities, combination of experience and dreams that best fits a person in a direction to go. To go along with that, if a person has, as an example, musical talent and or philosophical talent, those are applicable to what we are going to have to go into in terms of rebuilding. The philosophical talent should be used in terms of how to best express an ideal in terms of something that would be of a controlling interest that might fit one group in a general fashion, modified a little bit, fit another group where you have two societal differences. That's one example. In terms of music, it has been found that those people who have the best ideas derive those ideas from two things. One is that little catnap that a lot of people are beginning to understand the importance of. Another is the beauty of nature, where you can look out the window and see a tree and let your mind wander. The third part, and this is probably most critical of all, it's called imagination. One of the keys to imagination is to close your eyes so that your brain is not busy handling a vision, and allow music to take over. You'll find that you'll find a majority of your great paintings, your greatest literary works, and some of the best ideas come from people who are oriented into these things. So, yeah, there's going to be societal changes, but these are not going to exclude people. However, just because a person is dynamic in music does not necessarily mean they can't learn to raise a garden.
True, but you're not, we certainly aren't thinking about taking a bunch of college professors and sticking them out on a farm and telling them to produce this year's corn.
They'd probably make funny underwear in a factory too. No, I'm not saying that at all.
That's not the idea.
Exactly. The idea is to use in a productive manner or a beneficial manner. You got to remember, production or productivity does not necessarily mean Mr. Machine pumping out potatoes or widgets or something.
Yeah, material things.
Yeah, it can be ideologies, it can be philosophies, it can be understandings, and it can be well-written items that deal directly to the crux of issues.
Well, we also have an awful lot of reteaching of true history that needs to go on.
Exactly. So these people are going to be busy, and they may not have time to raise a garden. Well, maybe they could supply, because they make enough money, a little bit extra land or yard for the neighbor to go ahead and have a conjunctive garden. You supply the seed and the land, they provide the labor. Bingo, you got fresh food.
Well, for instance, Drake, last year, I had used up all of my gardening plot that we had tilled up last year. My neighbor had leftover. Says, hey, if you need any extra room, just come on down and plant it over here. And that's exactly what we did.
There you go. Now that's sharing the productivity. That's sharing the whatever. And this is the idea. The idea of I, me, I. Keep your hands off of my stack. I'm doing fine, Jack. Go somewhere and bother somebody else. Is going to have to change from the video game uninvolved mentality back to a form of considering your neighbors as your brothers and sisters and a part of your extended family. And this is going to be an extraordinary change. The entertainment field is going to be hurt badly by some of the stuff they put out that is no longer going to be allowed, as I see it personally. The idea of teaching an individual that they are not affected by participating in an extraordinarily violent video game is one of the biggest lies that I know of. It's called desensitization. That's where the military makes their targets the shape of a person at a distance, and you shoot that sucker. The more you shoot it, the easier it gets to pull the trigger. Just that simple.
Exactly.
And
yep.
These things have got to change.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I know part of my acreage is being used by a local dairy farmer, and he wants some of the eggs that my chickens produce, and I don't have a problem with that at all. But unfortunately, the commercial has come in so bad, that the corporation, that he's afraid to even attempt to give me a half a gallon of milk because they measure so closely. And I am so looking forward to the day that those restrictions are going to be gone.
Yeah, and what you need to realize when I brought that up about re-education, our entire educational system now has been transitioning from the written word text to computer programming in classrooms, and that software that they are using in public schools to teach your children is based on Pavlov's dogs. It is for the idea of training a workforce, not educating that young mind. So we have a lot to undo.
Right. Grammy, what was that?
I have a question. I'd like to know if a lot of the top players in this, the bad people, if a lot of these top players that have technically committed treason against this planet, not just against our nation, if they are going to be held accountable for that treason that they have committed.
That is where due process comes in. We cannot become a mob. As much as the inclination may be there, we are human. And we do feel great anger. But we absolutely must remember, what is this country based on? That is a constitutional republic.
We're the good people, and we need to do it the right way.
Right.
Exactly.
Justice
Jim?
is what we are after,
not revenge. Justice.
Exactly.
Right. Right. Hey, Jim, you had something to add real quick?
Yeah, real quick. If everybody was given 100 ounces of gold, that wouldn't put another bean into the ground. Words from Adam Smith. All right. Real wealth production starts by being basically grown out of the ground, taken from the planet Earth. You take something of little or no value and increase its value as a result of human endeavor. Now, that was from Adam Smith's words, 1776. So concentrate on production of wealth, not manipulation of it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Jim.
A part of that production of wealth deals with the land and repairing it, better known as the ecology. One of the things that we are doing is we strip our soils through a combination of things, one of those being the chemicals that we have to add in order to make things grow. If the land is treated correctly and handled correctly, it will re-energize itself. This is one of the great problems in terms of your large farms. Not only do they use chemical fertilizers, which are not good for you or the plant itself, but also they use pesticides that you cannot get rid of because they are of a type that become a part of the plant. Monsanto altered the genetic makeup or the basis by which a plant grows in order to produce these chemicals that control things that eat, like corn, for instance.
Exactly,
now, well, there's a problem with that, and the problem is this. Mother Nature, in its great capacity for change and adaptation, allows bugs to get used to something that would be deadly poisonous one day, and 2 generations, or let's say 3 weeks down the road, it don't bug them much as it did before. And pun intended.
Right. Well, hey, Drake, I hate to cut it off at this point, but we are just about out of time here, and I would like you, since you are going to be with us Sunday, to kind of give a little bit of a synopsis here. You've got about 7 minutes, and let people know what all you're going to be covering and talking about Sunday.
Okay, well, I'm going to first finish that other thought. What's happened is that because these plants are genetically designed to produce bug juice, the bugs have got used to it. You can expect in the next 2 years for these crops to start being ate up by the very bugs they're supposed to be immune to include Roundup, or Agent Orange, as you might want to call it. So you can expect crop failures. This means that you're going to have to go back to the original idea of farming. Now, as to Sunday, Sunday's call, I would like to, and I'd like everybody on this call who knows somebody who is either active duty, retired, reserve, or disabled military to listen in. The reason being is that there is a great concern within the active duty military, and it may be also within reservists and retired military disabled people, about what to do when the military says, well, you need to go and take John and his guns and everything out of his house. The differential between lawful and unlawful orders, whether or not to follow them, and how to respectfully decline to comply. During the Nuremberg trials, it was stated that just following orders was no defense. So that's part of what I'm going to be covering.
Oh, that sounds awesome. That sounds great, Drake.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, we are going to begin to wrap it up here. Drake, you will be with us this Sunday from, let's see, what is it, 6 to 9 Eastern Time. And, I'd like to encourage, as Drake said, for bring your friends that are military, both active, reserve, retired, just veterans, everybody, bring them all along. Drake's gonna really be addressing each one of you, and I'm excited, and I know there'll be a lot of people up in the Fort Campbell area that'll be tuning in that night. So, I encourage all of you to listen.
And put links to this show on your Facebook, and you can go to freedomreigns.us. We'll try to get the link up there real quick for this.
I've already got today's link up.
Yes.
I would like to say for all those of you with your head screwed on straight and preparing for the future, we don't know how much chaos there will be. There will be some, probably mostly in the inner cities. Hopefully it will be greatly reduced and minimized and done as peacefully as possible. But if you're planning for the future, remember the rule of threes. You can live 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, and 3 weeks without food. Store accordingly.
3 seconds without hope.
Yeah. Well, anyways, Jim, thank you. You've been most pleasurable in letting Drake get his message out. Terry, thank you for participating and helping out with this. Remy J, as always, thank you for your help, and thank you also for your service to this great nation. And to all of our callers who have called in, you guys have added greatly. We appreciate your thoughts and your input. It's you guys that we're doing this for. It's not for just us. It's for all of us. It's for you guys. It's for my grandkids and their kids and so on and so forth.
For the little ones.
All the little ones and all the future little ones to come along. I'm excited. Yes.
I'm going to let everybody know I'm an old fart, and I'm not doing this for me. I've lived my life pretty much, set things up so my kids can survive if they decide they need to come up here. I'm primarily doing this for my grandkids.
Me too. Yeah. Amen.
Yes, sir. Amen.
I want them to have the opportunity, hope, and capabilities that we missed because of our silent generation after World War II.
The real American dream that was taken from us.
Exactly.
Right.
We want them to have a world where their possibilities are not limited.
By cabal.
Exactly. Yep.
Thank you, Deatra.
Oh, yes, definitely. And Drake, I can't thank you enough. I really can't.
Well, you all are more than welcome. Any way I can serve my country, I will.
Oh, honey, I'm just, all the work you have done has been tireless, and you are a true warrior and patriot. And I just can't thank you enough.
Thank you.
And
God bless you, Drake and Terry.
Ditto, Drake.
Yeah.
Yes. So, Drake,
y'all and all the listeners be welcome.
Yes. Drake, would you like to take out the last 2 minutes or so?
Yeah, very simply. Everybody should remain calm. If you happen to be in a metropolitan area and fun and games start, try to stay away from it. Don't participate. One of the things that was said in a movie about Cool Hand Luke was, what we have here is a failure to communicate. Well, I changed that a little bit, and it's called, what we have here is a failure to participate. And that's something that'll be covered Sunday for sure. But in this, don't participate in a riot. Don't get the gun out too quick. Don't attack the military. That ain't what's needed to be done. What's needed to be done is everybody to think about how they can help everybody else.
Yes.
Just that simple.
Exactly. It is that simple. And, most of our listeners here know that I have a son who is active duty, and he has reassured me numerous times that, Mama, we will not fight against the American people. We will not harm them. So I feel very, very comfortable in that.
Get to know your neighbors.
Yes.
Even if you don't
many
like
of the young soldiers are not really aware of the truth that has been going on, and as soon as they know that, it's going to change everything in their mind.
That's the reason for the Sunday show.
Correct.
Yes, it is. So again, I want to just give my most heartfelt thank you to all of you guys who have been behind the scenes in declaring our freedom and sovereignty to the wolves. You guys have given everybody the greatest gift that any man aside from our Savior could have given us. And I can't tell you how appreciative I am for that. So with that, guys, we're going to have to end the show and make way for our next show coming up. And I'm not positive, but I do believe it is going to be Joanne Moretti. I'm not positive, but I know Joanne does have some great stuff.
Well, then I need to stay on.
Okay. Well, I will let you know for sure, Granny, in just a few minutes. Since my internet's running so slow, I can't go back and look it up.
Well, if Joe's coming on, we got to stay on.
Yep, exactly. Anyways, again, thank you all. Everybody, take care. God bless.